Episode 48 of the Marketing Life podcast. This is Taylor Timothy, your host. And today we have a special guest on the show. We have Anthony Ambrose. He's a YouTube content creator, and he helps companies grow their YouTube channels organically. This guy's had some serious success. He's worked with some amazing people. So let's not waste any more time and hear from your man, Anthony Ambrose. What's up, guys? Today I have Anthony Ambrose on the show. Anthony, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Anthony Ambrose. I'm a father, husband, all that great stuff. But more than anything,
how many kids do you have?
Three kids. Yeah. But more than anything, I am a YouTube growth and content strategist.
So what does that entail?
Basically, I help people grow, build, create, manage their YouTube channels.
That's awesome, man. So tell us how you got into it. Like, how did you niche in YouTube and get rolling in this?
So I originally started just as a creator on YouTube. I had my own YouTube channel. It was called Urban Media. And I would just run around the city of like Salt Lake, Provo, wherever, all around Utah, and then in the surrounding areas, so Arizona, California. And I'd just meet up with people, see what like breakdance jams were going on, and I'd film those. And then I'd interview the breakdancers and then like rappers that would come into town or hip hop shops and things like that. So I had to do everything with urban culture and hip hop, which is stuff that I love and enjoy. And so I would just interview these artists, these musicians, these DJs, these dancers, and I'd put them up on YouTube because I thought it was cool to create some sort of documentary series and document what was happening here in Utah and the surrounding states. So.
That's awesome, man. So are you telling me that you can bust a move?
Yeah, not anymore. I feel like I'm retired now. So my early days, that's how I got down, and I felt like it needed to be documented and put on YouTube. So that's what I did.
That's awesome, man. I've never heard of anybody doing that. So a very unique story. So tell us about YouTube and like a campaign that is actually like a YouTube channel maybe you created or something where it actually just failed.
Yeah. So having a whole channel fail, I don't think I've had that experience just yet. If I'm working with people or clients, I mean, first of all, I'd say any channel that eventually does fail, it really has to do with consistency. Like someone just gives up and doesn't work on the channel anymore, and then I'd consider it a failure, right? But then you can always go back and work on it and build it back up and get momentum going and have it become a success story. And so that's one way to see that. But I would say like an individual campaign where I was managing the YouTube channel and I had to create the content for it. It would be like my first official gig where I was being paid to run a channel. It was during March Madness, and my idea was to like create a character that was like a coach, like sort of like a weird coach that was eccentric and just unique. And so I figured like, hey, you know what? Like we'll make this like, I forgot what the coach's name was supposed to be. I don't even remember that. I sort of blocked it out of my memory. But yeah, it was just this coach guy, and he was basically going to show how, like, just sort of riff on people, like talk junk, have weird ways of training the basketball players to get ready for their big game. And this was all to promote screen protectors and iPhone cases. And so that was the idea. And March Madness was coming up, so I figured it would be something that could trend and really work out. And at the time, Brush, which is a big success story here in Utah, and when it comes to like YouTube, at the time they had created this really interesting character, which was like a giant tongue. And so I was sort of basing my concepts around that of like, you know what, like, a channel should have a character, a campaign should have characters. And that is a really big thing in the marketing world and the advertising world of having some sort of like icon or character. And so I thought like, hey, we create this cool coach. He comes back every year or during the summer. We do like weird stuff with him and all this stuff. And yeah, it'll be fun. So I had about a week to turn this project around, and right away that was like the first, red flag of like to turn this new concept around within a week. That was going to be pretty tough. That was a tough deadline. The other thing too, besides not having enough time, I also wasn't going to have budget for it. And so, in those situations as a creator, like you get very creative and try to solve this problem. And so I went for it. I shot it. I put it together. I edited it. And I wasn't the coach. I had another employee be the coach, hence the budget, right? We couldn't hire a real actor. And so, we went to town. We got a bunch of, volunteers to be actors in the video as well. We shot it, and then put it out there, and nothing happened. Nothing sold. Barely anyone watched it. I don't think anyone remembers this coach guy on the YouTube channel. And I don't even think those videos exist anymore. Like, I think they were hidden. But yeah, so that's what happened. And then I had on the next week, once it was released, and I had to do the report of like, hey, here's how this campaign went. Cause I had pushed for it and I was excited for it. And this is like, my chance to like prove myself to be like, we can do cool concepts like this. And yeah, I had a report like we gained no subscribers. We barely got any views and we sold nothing. And so right away, I think I did in that presentation did say like, I learned a couple of things. I learned that, maybe our audience can't relate to this character. Our audience at the time was a bit older, for the channel. And that's not really what they came to the channel for. They didn't come to be entertained. They came to be informed and see stuff like, that showed how the case worked and how to put on the screen protector and all that stuff. And so those are some of the things I learned from that campaign.
That's awesome, man. I mean, something I always tell people on this channel or this podcast or whatever, is that online marketing, like if you're not failing, you're like not doing it. Like people fail all the time. It doesn't matter how good they are. They're failing at some point. So thanks for sharing that failure. Sometimes people don't like to talk about those stories. So let's talk about your first little success, your first little success of doing YouTube and YouTube channels.
Yeah. So, I mean, my first success was with my own channel, like putting out content that I found an audience for. Like I knew that the community for breakdancing and for hip hop was pretty large already. And then, it was a way to highlight my backyard in a way, right? Like this is where I live. This is my community. And so it really helped build the community more. It shined a spotlight on them. And so like they were very supportive of it. And so that was something that I always found, really, really like brings the community together and really like sort of exposes people to like what's out there. And I got to see the power of YouTube because of that. Because then for like about 2 years, because I was doing this in my area, like I got like free clothing, like from clothing companies that they would send me stuff. They're like, check this out. I would get to concerts for free. And then I would just have the hookup everywhere. So it was tons of fun as a college kid. I was just like, man, this is a great life until like you're married and you have kids and you're like, I got to support them. So free like concerts and t-shirts isn't going to do it. So that was like one of my first tastes for success where I could like work with brands, work with sponsors, do partnerships, do some really cool stuff. But then on the more of the sales and marketing side of things, at that same company where I had this failure experience, I also started to get some big wins because I started to realize like, okay, I started taking like the screen protectors and I said like, let's put them through like all the durability tests we can put them through and show how durable and resilient that screen protector is. And so I just started doing these like shock and awe videos of, and this was fun, by the way, because sometimes I had to use my own phone because this is what our budget was like. So we're actually putting to the test our screen protectors
with your phone,
with my own phone. But sometimes I got to use my boss's phone. So, so it's like, I got to put that on the table and then hammer, nails, like hacksaws, all sorts of stuff. We'd like, I would just dump on that, try to scratch it up and do all those types of things. And so that was a fun experience. I created like a series of videos like that, and each one of those videos, I was able to show back like how we would sell product. There was even I would even do tests where there was product we didn't like feature anywhere in like paid ads or sold in stores. It was just on the website, but it wouldn't get any sales. And I would just make a video about it, and then right away that same day a sale would come in. And so it was a great way to show the power of YouTube. And it got to a point where the organic, because this was all done organically, they got to a point where like that organic content almost started to match some of the paid content that was being done with like AdWords. And so that was really cool to see that and just create a series of videos that were like that. And some of those videos even got featured like on Mashable or on other sites, depending on like the unique twist I would add to it. So there was a time where I said like, let's use an iPad as a cutting board. And then we put the screen protector on top, and then we'd put like a backdrop of a cutting board, and then we'd do stuff in the kitchen and cut some stuff on it. And that got featured in a couple of blogs and sites and things like that.
That's awesome. So those first little success stories that you had, your first one, let's go to your breakdancing days. Why were those successful?
I think it's just the fact that the way I was shooting the content wasn't just what most people were used to. Like at the time, I was also doing long form content, which early YouTube days, people were just mostly doing like 1 minute, 3 minute videos. Maybe 5 minutes was like the longest content you would find there. And so I was doing 10-minute videos, sometimes even longer, to make it seem like it was more like this documentary, this episodic content. And so it was a little more high end, a little more professional. And I think that quality tended to make it stand out from what was out there at the time. And other than that, it was just really promoting it and getting the word out. And then just having the community sort of be the one that sort of helped spread that and promote it to other people.
That's awesome. So basically you were doing long form content, and from there, quality content. And how consistent were you being? I
think I uploaded a video every single week. And then at one point, I even started doing daily, which again was sort of unheard of at the time. And in fact, what I find interesting is that as soon as I actually like retired the channel, like everyone else started doing all that stuff. And then that's when like YouTube sort of changed. It was like, we want long form content or do daily content. And I was like, man, I've already been doing that for 3 years. Yeah.
That's awesome. So let's dive into the screen protection thing.
Yeah.
So why were those successful?
I think it's just the fact that not a lot of people were seeing that. There was only one other competitor out there that was using YouTube to sell screen protectors, and that was Zag. And so Zag and Bodyguards were sort of like the rivalry in the area. Interestingly enough, like Zag, they focused more on like the paid ads through YouTube, which helped them a lot. Like it was to their advantage. And so when I was doing organic content, I was just thinking like, I can create sort of short form shock and awe content, show how durable it is, and then just make it somewhat like, will it blend? Which was always like sort of entertaining at the same time, to be like almost this shock and cringe factor of like, oh man, this thing is getting beat up, and the fact that like, yeah, we were using our own iPhones, there were real iPhones, real iPads and all that, and the fact that people could see that. I remember showing a video to a friend and then having this person like sitting next to me saying like, where can I buy that, as soon as they saw the video. And I was just sort of showing like this rough cut of something I created, because yeah, it really was powerful. It stood out. It was like in your face, and it was just like, who would do that to their phone? There was one video I did too where I threw my phone up and I hit it with a bat, and like I swung it and just like hit it, and I was being super confident, right? And yeah, the screen protector, nothing broke. Everything was fine. But my phone actually bent.
Oh.
You didn't see that in the video? Like in fact, I picked up the phone. I'm like, look at that. Like nothing. And then we cut it. And then I turn my phone to the side and it has like this bent in it. And I'm just like, and so then I just like bend it back. But yeah, that was before Bendgate. But yeah, that definitely happened. I was just like, okay, let's bend that back and let's not hit this again.
That's awesome. So your takeaways there were creating content really that stands out, correct?
Yeah.
Just make sure I'm clear there. So, okay, let's dive into the Grand Slam for success. I always tell people this is like my one buddy said, I don't like grand slams. I like slam dunks. It's like, okay, dude, that's fine. It's like, what's your big story that just made you go, I can just do this on my own and full time and freelance and start my own company? Yeah.
I mean, I think early on, as soon as I started to get paid for being, this YouTube manager, that's sort of like, something clicked there where I'm like, okay, I can do this for companies. But then when I finally decided to do it on my own, like that sort of happened just sort of as an accident. Like people knew that I was doing YouTube. People knew that I worked with people on YouTube. And so every now and then I would just get someone would come to me and they're like, how much do you charge? And in the early days, I'm like, I don't know, like $40. Like, I'll look at the channel for $100. And then I realized like, oh no, I should probably charge that like on an hour basis, or I should, make it a retainer and do all that type of stuff. But really like the big moment, was very recent, I would say. Like this last year, I was a coach for this other YouTube expert, and she sells coaching programs, and I was one of her head coaches for one of the programs there, where I was working one-on-one with her clients, and so I would see like how much people would actually pay to get coached for their YouTube channel, and that like right there when I saw those numbers coming in, I was just like, hold up, like, what have I been doing this whole time? Like, my retainer that I'm charging is like, I'm spending way more time on people's channels, doing way more. And now like I'm seeing like this whole other side, the business side of how it can be done. And so one of the students I had, when I was working with them, so yeah, I saw how she was structuring her programs. And so I was one of the coaches there. And so one time, one of my students was a brand new student that had signed up for her program. And so I was gonna, like I was still sort of being trained in how her own program worked. And of course I already had prior knowledge to how to do all this stuff. But interestingly enough, that day, like she couldn't make it to the call. So it was just me by myself, and I was getting ready to like reschedule, but I was like, no, let's do this. So, I'm there on the call, and then I have to sort of apologize, like, hey, she can't be on the call with us today, so it's just gonna be me. So let's go through this. I go through the procedure, and then as I'm talking with them, I start to like come up with some ideas of my own, and I'm like, all right, so let's do this. Like, so there was always like this like this thing that we'd have the students do as they started, which was to go live on their channel and like sort of do like this big email blast to everyone to say like, we're going to go live on our YouTube channel, and that would bring in an influx of new people, and that would mean like more subscribers and more views and watch time, which are all the great metrics that YouTube loves. And so I decided to be like, you guys seem like you have a great camera presence. Let's have you actually make videos for each one of these emails that you're going to send out. And so you make it a more like intimate invitation. And so send out these emails, do a video with each one, invite people to come to the big live launch, and then go live and then have that happen, go through that whole process. So next week, usually like we tell them to wait like a week before they do it, but this crew was just so adamant of taking action, and like they were just like, you would tell them something, they would execute on it, and they did just that. And then they went live. I meet with them the next week, and I'm like, so you guys ready to do this whole thing? They're like, we already did it, and we went live already. And I was like, for real? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, so how'd it go? and they're like, we actually made more money in this one live stream, which brought in more money than we make. Like, this is our highest like grossing month, like, for our company. And then it's like, we already made our return on investment for being in the program. They're like, what else you got? And so I was like, all right,
bring it.
Yeah. And so then I started telling them, like, all right, you got to do a Facebook group. You got to do this. You got to do that. And then they shot up. They were at, like, when I was working with them, there were about 70 something thousand subscribers. Within a month, they had passed 100,000 subscribers. By the end of the program, they had hit 200,000 subscribers.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Keep going, though. Keep dropping those numbers.
And then, so the program was always 3 months. And then 3 months later, so within 6 months, they had hit 300,000 subscribers. And then I had talked with them, and they were saying, like, every month we now bring 7 figures from our YouTube channel. Like, and this isn't like YouTube AdSense. This is like
all organic.
Yes, all organic. This is moving people from their YouTube channel to their website, from their Facebook group community to their website, and people just buying their product. And it was just amazing. And then they held a big like conference or event to sort of share what they had learned. And I had the opportunity to go and speak at it, and so that was tons of fun to do that, and like it was really cool to receive their praise and to again hear that testimonial that they gave of, like, this is what we do now on our channel. It's like changed our entire life. They ended up buying like a whole nother warehouse, getting more employees, and they're just been crushing it on YouTube.
That deserves a high five. Crushing it, dude. I love that. That's an awesome story. So congratulations on your Grand Slam. So let's dive into this speed round. So what would you tell your 20-year-old self?
The 20-year-old self, I would tell him to get better at speed rounds. No.
Get better at speed rounds.
I would tell my 20-year-old self to study Stoic philosophy. Like, I've been really into that recently, and it's like it really helps with mindset.
Interesting.
So
I like that. So what do you do for fun, when you're not on YouTube? What do you got going?
I wish I could say play video games, but that's what I would do for fun if I had time to have fun. Yeah, it'd be play video games, and of course, as a father, I definitely play with my kids, so it's always fun to do that.
That's awesome. So what are some updates in this YouTube industry?
Oh man, YouTube's always changing. There are some big updates. I mean, right now there's been the updates with like their new studio beta. They're changing their analytics. Their back end of everything looks a lot better. It does really nicely in reporting numbers. YouTube has had a huge change in how they're going to show subscribers now to remove this whole idea of like canceling people. Like there's been this new cancel culture of sorts where people just, as soon as there's drama and then people pick a side, there's a whole wave of people that start to unsubscribe from people. And then there's all these live streams of like, look at the number of counts go down, and people are sort of cheering on that negativity. And so YouTube has done their part to sort of squash that and not allow for something like that. So I think that's really good.
That's awesome. Favorite marketing book?
Trust Me, I'm Lying by Ryan Holiday.
I've never heard that. Tell us a little brief why.
So it was written, I would say, over 5 years ago now. Ryan Holiday is like one of my favorite authors. He's written like 5 books before he turned 30, which is incredible. All best-selling books. But that book, he used to be the director of American Apparel, and so he would create these viral, like now people call it growth hacking, but he would create these like viral campaigns and just sort of rile up the media to sort of like create controversy and get all this publicity. And so oftentimes, like, I don't know if you're familiar with American Apparel at all.
I'm actually not.
Okay, so American Apparel used to be like this really nice like clothing company. They just sold like plain clothes. They had like a really nice tri-blend t-shirt. Like it was soft.
Nice tag.
It's gone now, but they used to get hit a lot in the media because their ads sort of were like very controversial, of like showing like sort of like girls barely wearing anything and the clothes and all that stuff. But those were all fake. So Ryan Holiday would devise these ideas to say like, or these emails to reporters and say like, oh, look at these behind the scenes campaigns that are about to go out. And so there'd be like leaked like campaigns. And so then everyone would start talking about it, but they were never a campaign in the first place. He would just create it and make it up.
Interesting.
And so what's really interesting about that book in a marketing standpoint, it sort of shows how the media right now in today's world, like how that sort of bends reality and perception of people. And Ryan feels like he sort of helped start that in a way, right? Like he's not taking full credit, but like he sort of feels like he was able to take advantage of it. He helped others and taught it to others. And then now everyone's taking advantage of like how to use the media for their benefit, whether it be a viral campaign or a political campaign or anything like that. So
interesting.
It's eye-opening.
Very interesting. Sounds like I need to get that book. So, what's like your favorite thing about, I say online marketing here, but in your case, like YouTube, what's your favorite thing about it?
I think my favorite thing about it is that YouTube to me has become, where television was back in the days. Like YouTube is like the new television. That's where you can get celebrity status. You can grow your brand. You can take your company to a whole nother level. And I think that is like YouTube to me is one of the social media platforms, because it is a social media platform that has like the longest staying power. It's the most visited. Like people try to argue between YouTube and Facebook, but most recent reports show it's YouTube. And so, I think like if you're not on YouTube, you need to be there. And that's what I love about online marketing, because people are still late to the game.
Yeah. No, I in a recent podcast, I'm a believer like YouTube is still in its infant stage. Like it has not even like touched where it's going to touch, in my opinion. I don't
think it's even a teenager yet. I think it barely hit 10 years a little while. Well, no, it's like it's barely 14 years now, because it was 2005. Yeah.
It's still really young, and I kind of feel like Facebook and Instagram, they're going to keep growing, but I think YouTube is still just not even where it's going to be. Like it's going to be so much bigger, in my opinion, but right. I don't know. We'll see. So what's your favorite marketing podcast?
Favorite marketing podcast right now, Business Wars. I don't know if you heard of it.
I have not.
Business Wars, like will sort of tell the stories behind like the two big giants, whether it be like Ferrari and Lamborghini, Blockbuster and Netflix, McDonald's or Burger King. So it'll tell their stories through like a series, like, and it's sort of done like in a narrative format. And so like the podcast host actually does the voices for everyone, and it's really cool. So like you get this behind the scenes look of the conversations that were had. And of course they do their best to like say like, this is probably what was said during this time, during this meeting. So I find it fascinating.
That's super interesting. Haven't heard of that one. So favorite online marketing tool?
vidIQ.
vidIQ. Yeah. I was going to ask you if you use that.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
a good
definitely.
Go check that out. So what advice would you give to every, marketer in the world?
Get on YouTube, start a YouTube channel.
Amen to that. So would you say that to companies as well?
Oh yeah, definitely. Companies are so bad at it, but they should get on there.
That's awesome. So last question of this podcast, if someone wants to hire you to coach them on all these different things you're talking about, where do they find you?
Find me on YouTube. I just started my own channel after being behind the scenes for years. So just go there and you'll learn all the great stuff you need to learn to start your YouTube channel, figure out the YouTube algorithm, all that great stuff. So that's Video Creator Secrets.
That's awesome. And email, Instagram?
Yeah, I mean, email, Instagram, all that stuff. Email is anthony@vidstrategy.com. Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, all those places, just Anthony Ambrose.
That's awesome, man. Thanks for having me on. Thank you for being on the show.
Hey, it was a pleasure.
See you. Thanks, guys, for listening to episode 48 of the Marketing Life podcast. Guys, Anthony dropped some serious nuggets about building your YouTube channels. Go in, make sure you guys' channels are properly set up. If you guys haven't yet, do it. It's just going to help your business grow. If you guys have any questions for Anthony, reach out to him. If you guys have any questions for me, feel free to reach out to me. I'm here to help. And last but not least, if you guys haven't went over and checked out my course on online marketing, how you guys can generate leads and sales for your business, feel free to go check that out. Other than that, peace. 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 Peace.